David Mohler, thanks very much for joining us. I think one of the big questions right now when we look at renewable energy sources is how can you actually capture and transport things like wind energy, things like renewable energy, and get them to be used everywhere? What do you think is the next big thing on that front?
Well, I think a couple of things will get at your question. One is I see more and more of those technologies being embedded throughout the grid and not just necessarily only centrally located. So I think we'll see that happening more and more. But I also have looked at the capital investment in our industry during the last few years and then going forward. And that capital investment is shifting away to some extent from generation to transmission and distribution. So a lot more transmission and ways to actually distribute that energy are being developed right now.
What does that actually look like, ways to distribute, transmission, ways to distribute that energy?
Well, it means we're either building more wires so that you've got more capacity, or putting other kinds of devices that increase the capacity of the existing wires onto the system.
When we look at the way America's kind of role in the energy spectrum has changed in the last 5 years, it's really these new technologies, things like fracking, that have opened up a whole new world of energy production and even opened up this idea of America as a net energy exporter. What do you think is going to be the next big thing, the next big technology that could shake up that game?
Well, perhaps not so much as a net energy exporter, but for the existing markets, in particular electricity markets in the U.S., I think there are a number of things. We saw solar energy come down in price really significantly over the last 5 or 6 years on a pretty steep trajectory. And if I look at what's going on with energy storage technologies, I see the same kind of trajectory just a few years separated from solar, so a few years later. And in a real similar way, things like LED lighting, which the current generation of LED lighting only requires about 10% of the energy of an incandescent light. That's on a similar trajectory, maybe even faster than solar was. And when I look at LED lighting, for example, because LED lighting uses a lot less energy, gives off a lot less heat, there are ripple effects. So you don't need as much HVAC load, you don't need as many devices back on the grid to make up for it. So you kind of have this combination of things coming together that have the potential to really improve the efficiency with which we use electricity in the U.S.
And it's pretty clear that getting consumers to care about how much energy they're actually using, about how they're using their energy matters. When you talk about things like solar panels and LED lighting, what works? What gets people to be more aware of how much energy they're using?
Well, one thing that works to get people to change their behavior is price. So some of the new LED light bulbs are really coming significantly down in price. In fact, I went to Lowe's weekend before last and just priced some. And some of the current bulbs that will burn for up to 15,000 hours can be bought for $12. So if you think about that life, and especially if you've got highlights like in this room and you don't want to drag a ladder out every few months to change the light bulb, $12 sort of starts to seem like a good deal. So that works. The other thing that works is if people can kind of understand how they want to use their energy and then set it and forget it.
All right, well, there you have it. David
Okay.
Mohler, thanks for joining us.
You betcha.